consecutive ones. Number 2, given a binary array nums, return the maximum number of consecutive ones in the array if you can flip at most 1 0. So the question might sound confusing, but I'm going to explain it here with an example, and it's going to be very easy to understand. Let's say this is the original array that we have, and the question is saying you can at most flip 1 0 to 1. So I will flip this 0 to 1, and in here I'm going to flip this 0 to 1. We have 2 0 in the first array. I'm flipping the first 0, and in the second array I'm flipping the second 0. And I cannot flip 2 zeros. I can only flip 1 0 to 1. And then I should see in which of these cases I get the longest consecutive ones. In the first flip, you see I get 4 consecutive ones, and in the second one we get 3 consecutive ones. So we are going to return 4 because 4 is the longer than 3, and this is the maximum number of consecutive ones that we can get. Let's go try another example. So this is the original array. So it has 2 zeros. I can get 2 different cases. In one case, I can flip this 0 to 1, and the other case, I can flip this 0 to 1, right? And as you see, in both cases, the longest consecutive ones that I can get is going to be 4, and 4 is the answer that we are going to return. So for solving this problem, what we are going to do, we are going to iterate over the array. I'm going to use this array as an example to better understand the solution and explain it using this example. So what we are going to do, we need to count the number of ones that we have at the left side of 0, and we are going to flip this 0 to 1, and then we need to count the number of ones that we have at the right side of the 0, and if we get the total of this is the answer that we are going to return. So we are going to keep track of the zeros that we have at the left side here, but at the beginning of the array at index 0 we have nothing at the left, so we are going to put -1 here, and we are going to count the number of ones that we have at the right side, or I can call this the right side of the array. We are going to say we have no ones at the right side, and then we are going to keep track of the longest one here, and we start from 0. So let's use a for loop to iterate over this array. For num in nums, what we are going to do, we are going to say if num, which means if num is equal to 1, or we can write it like this: if num is equal to 1, we are going to add to the ones. I would rather to use ones here, so it's going to be easier to understand. So ones plus 1, we are going to add 1 to the number of ones, right? And we are at this point. So now ones is equal to 1, and then we are going to say if num is not equal to 1, which means it's equal to 0, then what we are going to do, we are going to update the longest with the max of the longest that we had from before, plus the left one, plus the ones, the number of ones, plus 1, which is going to be 0, right? And what we're going to do, we are going to update the left and ones. We are going to update the left to the number of ones that we have, because we are seeing a 0 here, right? And we are going to update ones to 0. And we are going to return at the end the maximum of the longest, and the same thing. Okay, let me go through an example so you can understand this thing. Let's say we have left is equal to -1, ones is equal to 0, and longest is equal to 0 as well. So let's start iterating. Okay, num is equal to 1. What we're going to do, we are going to increase this, and we go to the next element. Num is equal to 0. Now we should go through this else condition. We are going to update the maximum, update the longest with the maximum of the longest, which is going to be 0, or left, which is -1, plus 1 plus 1 is going to be 1. So the maximum of 0 and 1 is 1. And we go to the next element, which is going to be 1. And then, and also we are going to update this 1 to 0, and we're going to update this 1 to 1, right, based on this line. And then we go to the next element. 1 is equal to, that second index is equal to 1, so we're going to add 1 here. The third element is equal to 1, so we're going to add 1 to 1s. And the fourth element is going to be 0. So now it's time to update the longest. So when we are going to update the longest, we are going to get the left, which is 1, plus the right, the ones that we have, which is 2, plus the 0 that we have, which is going to be 4, and we are going to update the max of 1 and 4 is 4. And then we are going to update this to 0, and we are going to update this to 2. And then we are going to see the next element that we have is 1, so we are going to add this to 1. And finally, what we are going to do, we are going to return the maximum, the longest element that we have, which is 4, and 2 plus 1 plus 1 is going to be 4. Maximum of 4 and 4 is 4, and 4 is the number that we are going to return. So the time complexity for this is linear, because we have to iterate over every single item that we have in the array, and the space complexity is constant because we are not using any extra space other than constant extra space. Thank you.